Okay, so you have a lot of choices with hoppers. So which one's the right one for you? My name's Greg. You're watching How to Play Paintball. So basically what I wanted to do was give you a comparison of like the top of the line loader, like the Spire 3, and more of like a mid-range like the Spire IR. So that way you're gonna be educated so you can make the choice that is best for you as the consumer. So let's first go over the Spire IR. So one of the main differences you're going to see from the 200 to the Spire IR is this back section here. So rather than it being like the original Spire 200 where it was a polycarbonate, basically like a plastic, now it's a nylon. What this nylon is going to do is it's going to last a lot longer than that plastic, and it also gives you a little bit more features in here, which I'll go over in a second. But it's going to be a little bit harder for it to pop off. With the original Spire, I actually had it happen with my old one, where if you dive too hard, it actually will pop off, and that's not good. You don't want that to happen. So that's one cool thing. The other is that what they did with this new change is, right in there you can see there's a little tab. So what this means is that you can actually go ahead and take out this lid, much like you're going to see with the Spire 3, and put in a crown. Now the crown is definitely like one of the best speed feeds that you can get. It's not going to let any paint come out, and it's going to last for a really long time. It's not going to sag or any issues like that. But what's good is that, let's say you start out with the Spire IR and then eventually you want to go and upgrade up to the Spire 3. You can actually just take out your speed feed and put it right onto the Spire 3. They're interchangeable. So another big change that Virtue made with the Spire IR from the original 200 is now it is a vision system rather than it being the G-force sensor. So when you were shooting, it was kind of listening in basically to what it is that was happening, if it needs to pulse or anything like that. Now what's different with this vision system is it's not just looking like, if you guys remember the old Halos, they were looking to see if there was a ball there or not, and then it would spin. This vision system is actually looking at if there's a ball and then also the stack, so how far apart the next ball in the stack is compared to the one that it's looking at. So it's just a better vision system, and it's going to ultimately just work better. So that's a cool thing that they had done, and it actually was able to bring down the price. The Spire IR retails for right around $100, so it's a very good budget loader. But that is basically it. All the other stuff is exactly the same. It's going to use still 3 AA batteries, and it's still going to last a very long time. I've beat up my other Spire, and it always works like a champ. All right, so now let's say you have a little bit more money and you want to look at the Spire 3. Now, I'm going to say that this one is definitely going to be better to go with because of a few reasons. One is it has this hinge system. Now, the thing that I really like with the hinge system is the button to actually release it is a little bit more intense, if that makes sense. It takes a little bit more force to actually pop it open rather than it being kind of like the Spire IR. Now, because of that nylon shell, it's going to make it so it's difficult for it to pop open, but for this to take a hit to the side or you dive really hard into the snake or whatever, it's not going to pop open. What is cool though is that this hinge system, if for some reason, somehow this popped open, which it's not going to, you're not going to have to look around and go, okay, crap, where did my back section go off to? Because it's the hinge system, so it's just basically hinging on that. So that's the first cool thing. Like I had said before, if you wanted to upgrade, you can of course swap out for the crown, so you can go ahead and put that in there. Those are all going to be interchangeable. I'm going to put this shell off here for a second. Now, it still uses the 3 AA batteries, or I'll get into another cool thing that you can do with this. And yeah, so it has the G-force sensor, so it's going to be very sensitive. You can adjust that sensitivity. So let's say you have a super smooth gun that barely has any kick, you're still going to be able to use a hopper like this and not have to worry about, is it going to be able to hear it, essentially. So something that I really like that they've done is you can actually go ahead and literally everything in here is toolless, with the exception of one thing, which I'll get into in a second. But pretty much anything that you need to service is going to be toolless. So taking out the tray is super easy. What I really like is that you can actually pop out the paddles themselves, and it's a magnet. So I really like that feature because let's say that you've broken a whole bunch of paint. This is something really easy in the pit that you can take out, clean up, put it back, and it'll snap back into place with the magnet in there. So the Spire 3 still has the spring ramp, and it is actually included, whereas the Spire IR, you are going to have to go ahead and purchase it separately. The spring ramp is helping you basically with when you have a full hopper and all the paint is in there. All the paintballs are going to push that down, and it slowly is going to push back up because of the spring that's in there. And that is going to help with pulling. So basically the spring ramp is going to help as it goes back like that with rolling the paintballs down into the system here to push the paintballs into your gun. So that way you're not going to get any kind of like stragglers or whatever where they're kind of just in the front of the hopper. This is going to help with pushing them back so that it can get into the system, into that drive cone, and pushed into your guns. That way you're able to shoot. So like I had said before, uses 3 AA batteries. Both of them are still going to just need 3 AA batteries, which is great. If you guys remember back in the old Halo days, you needed 6, and that's just going to make it way more. And that's any weight reduction is a good thing. Just makes it easier to maneuver, makes it easier to, well, it makes it cheaper too because you don't have to go and buy a whole bunch. But that being said, the cool thing with the Spire IR and the Spire 3 is that you can actually use the Virtue N-Charge, which you had seen in a previous video that I had done a review on this. Basically, you don't need to buy AA's ever again. So probably the coolest thing about the Spire 3 is the app. And yes, you did hear that right. There is an app for this hopper that you're able to update everything, whether that be like the firmware. You can do the firmware updates so that way you don't have to plug anything in or anything like that. But also you can update any of the settings if you want to have it where it is more sensitive or a little bit easier on paint, if you want it to be honestly, whatever it is that you would like. And it's a super easy app to use. It's going to work on Android and iOS, so you don't have to worry about just having Android or just having Apple. I'm an Apple fan, sorry. Just kind of a sucker for the iOS platform. But when I was using it, I was kind of playing around with it, and once you click through it once or twice and kind of tap through the different things, you're going to be able to understand it. So it's just a really cool thing that they had included with the Spire 3 just to make it easier, honestly. So it's just a really, really cool feature. Okay, so which do you go with? If you are on a budget, Spire IR is going to be perfect. It's right around $100. It's a very durable hopper. The hopper that I used to have, that Spire 260, if you guys remember that like wood green one that I had, basically it's still working. There's a guy that I had sold it to because this was before I got on with the Kings. I was with the Green Bay Boom, and we had to use dye products. So I had actually sold that one to someone locally to me here that plays at Action Paintball, and that was just because when I was playing with Boom, we needed to use dye products, so I couldn't use my Spire, but it still works. He was literally just using it. Actually, someone was borrowing it at a tournament, and I know that he uses it as well. But what they did with the Spire IR is they just improved on it. It's a very sturdy platform, so it's going to do everything that you need it to do. So personally, I would say go with the Spire 3 if you do have the option to. It is going to be about double the price of the Spire IR, but it does come with a lot more features and a lot more things that are going to be really cool with that. Some of those features, like I had said before, the spring ramp included already. It does have the magnetic drive cone, so that way it's just easier to maintain. Everything is toolless. You don't have to worry about having to unscrew anything. There are a couple little things that you need to unscrew if you want to service everything in here, whereas, yeah, pretty much everything in here with the exception of the battery pack to take out is toolless. So it's just easier to maintain. So the maintenance on the Spire 3 is going to be a little bit easier than the Spire IR just because of the way that they've designed it. The app, being able to update anything on the fly from your phone, is a really cool feature, whereas the Spire IR, you will have to go into the programming modes and adjust it like that. Not that it's the end of the world, but it's just a cool feature that they have with the Spire 3. Overall, I would say that the Spire 3, of course, is going to win out over the Spire IR, but the Spire IR is a super solid loader. So for, like I said, right around $100, it's going to be definitely the better option. So let's say also that you're trying to figure out, well, should I go, well, Greg, what about dye? The die LTR loader, if you're going to compare it to that, just real quick, you're not going to be able to switch back and forth with a speed feed. That is one of the downsides with the die LTR loader. Whereas the Spire IR, you can use the crown, which you can pop in and out. So like we had said before, you have the little lip there, so you can pull this out and swap it out. It's really easy. Whereas the LTR, you're going to need to buy a whole new top shell. So basically the way that die had designed the original rotor, which is just kind of like a little bit of an update to the LTR. So you had to rip apart the hinge and basically rip the lid out, and then unscrew a couple things and then put the speed feed in there and then screw it back together. But then you were stuck with it. So if it rained, too bad. You'd have to put like cardboard over it, or you'd have to have a separate shell. I remember I had to do that. You had a separate shell that you would put over it that you could just clip on. But it was just kind of a pain, to be honest. Whereas now the Spire IR, you can buy the crown, and then when you want to upgrade to the Spire 3, you just plop it in there. I would say for the price, definitely go with the Spire IR. So what do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Be sure to tell me in the comments down below. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, be sure to click the bell button, because it's a stupid thing that YouTube does, so that way you can see my videos right when they're released. Just so you get that notification that a new video had come up. But guys, like I said, I hope that this video helps you out. And as always, remember, watch, learn, win. Thanks.